Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the debut album from a band called HAIM, and the album titled Days Are Gone. And you know, for as many solo female acts as I've reviewed this year, I haven't really covered that many girl groups, or at least in the traditional definition of a pop girl group. I mean, the closest thing I can think of off the top of my head would be Iconopop, but that was a duo, and after that, Savages and Echo Bench were girl bands, not precisely fitting the stereotypical definition of what would be considered a girl group in the vein of, say, the Spice Girls or TLC. Now, the truth of that matter is that girl groups haven't nearly been as successful in North America as they've been internationally, but where they continue to exist and be somewhat popular to this day, particularly in J-pop and K-pop. Of the international girl group acts that I know, I probably like UK-based girl group Girls Aloud the most, almost to the point where I consider them my favorite of the genre. Yes, I'm actually being serious here. But as with boy bands, girl groups didn't quite go away in the UK, and while they didn't quite cross over, acts like Little Mix and Fifth Harmony have achieved some minor success statewide thanks to the influence of Simon Cowell. And really, it was only a matter of time, as soon as I saw boy bands coming back led by One Direction, I knew girl groups would be right around the corner. So, with all that in mind, let's talk about HAIM, a group that really toes the line between being a girl band and a girl group, and which broke into the public eye last year. These three sisters all play their own instruments, to be sure, which would technically be the classification as a band, but they do claim to draw a lot of their influence from mid-90s female R&B acts like TLC, which is why I stand by the girl group mention, at least on the face of it. Strangely though, many critics have not drawn the much sharper comparison not to girl groups as a whole or to girl bands, but to Fleetwood Mac of all things. That, plus the critical acclaim, was enough to catch some interest from me, so I gave their debut album Days Are Gone a listen. What do I think? Well, Jesus. This is going to be another one of these tricky ones because HAIM's Days Are Gone is very much an album that it seems designed to appeal to music critics, and I can bet a lot of them are just going to adore it, given its wealth of influences and distinctly unique sound. But I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid just yet here, mostly because I think despite all of those influences, I don't think their music really reaches the sum of its parts. Don't get me wrong, this album, yeah, it's good, but there's something about it that's just not clicking with me in HAIM in a way that, let's say, fellow indie rock act Churches clicked in a big way with me, and given some of the similarities between their sounds, I'm more than a little perplexed by this. Okay. Let's start with production and instrumentation, which really feels like a hodgepodge of sounds brought together from many different eras. The guitar has a sullen smolder reminiscent of post-punk or classic rock. The keyboards sound like they were partially lifted from a Kate Bush track. The bass is plucky and prominent. It feels like it was lifted from a retro disco album. And the percussion sounds distinctly like it was lifted from a late 80s, early 90s Genesis or Phil Collins mix. And the production of all things is very, very distinctly modern. It's either very, very spacious, letting all the sounds in the mix seethe and reverb across it, or it comes a lot closer to the front of the mix with a lot of clattering immediacy that is designed to draw a lot of attention. And thus, it didn't really surprise me to see Ariel Rechtshaid and James Ford as the co-writers and producers on this album, because the production is very close to that of HAIM's more famous contemporaries and these producers who have worked with them. And for the most part, the sound is actually, surprisingly, somewhat cohesive. Catchy as hell, generally enjoyable, definitely unique, with every element in the mix playing a special part, yet not too calculated to be branded as inorganic. And you know what? For the most part, the vocals are actually pretty solid too. All three girls have a fair amount of personality, they harmonize well, and as I said, they're compared with Fleetwood Mac, which is really only a compliment in my books. It's here where I see the strongest comparisons are at their best, because while the girls are trying their hardest to emulate those girl groups of the mid-90s, particularly in their vocal harmonies, their voices and delivery are a lot closer to that of a modernized Stevie Nicks. And while I wouldn't say this is the best fit for traditional R&B, it's a natural fit for this particular brand of indie pop that they're going for. Now, the smallest nitpick that I will make here is that, like with Iconopop, I have a hard time telling the various singers apart on most tracks, and they don't really get much of a chance to assume a unique identity, and that can leak away some of that individuality in their delivery, but really, that's a minor nitpick, all things considered. So really, the production, the instrumentation, the vocals are pretty good all across the board. So what about the lyrics? Surely they're as good, right? Yeah, oh. Yeah, this is the area that everything went to hell in a big way for me, and one of the other comparisons that drove the girl group comparison for me, because while the vocals might be striving to emulate TLC, the lyrics sound like they were lifted from the Spice Girls, either being shallow as hell or not really being about much of anything. Now, don't get me wrong, the technical elements of their poetry, they're mostly okay, but there's very little elements in their lyrics that really distinguishes the band as unique or shows that they have anything interesting to say that hasn't been done a dozen times before or more. But then again, this is a band that's proudly wearing the indie girl group label, and the lack of raw passion in their delivery makes it very clear that they're convinced that what they're saying is important and valuable. So okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and go a little bit deeper. And really, there's not a lot there. I guess if you're looking for a deeper meaning in some of HAIM's material, one thing that definitely sticks out in a bad way is the lack of agency. All across this album, things happen to the narrator of these songs, but she rarely does anything. It's often played as if she doesn't have much of a choice, whether in love or in her choice of her relationships. Take Forever, for instance. It's a song about a relationship that she clearly resents, the one that she seems that she only got into and stayed into is just because it's a relationship, but she's not willing to actually say something and just end it. Instead going with, if you say the word, I'll say goodbye. Say it for yourself, girl. It'll be better for both of you in the long run. And look, it's not just here either. Everywhere on this album, nowhere are these girls presented as having the same way of agency and control of their relationships or feelings. And while some might argue that's realistic, it'd be a lot easier to listen to if these relationships described in the lyrics were anything less than absolutely toxic. The one real point on the album where it shows the narrator taking agency in a big way is the final track, Running If You Call My Name. And unsurprisingly, it's probably one of my favorite songs in the album. The song Honey and I tries something like that, trying to brush it off, showing that she's with her new partner and she's trying to brush away that one of her old exes approaching her, but it came across completely unconvincing for me. Maybe it would help matters if the lyrics were more detailed and sounded less unstructured, but too often I'm listening to these songs and the image of the narrator just coalescing in my mind is far from flattering, because she comes across as being plagued with a lot of insecurity and self-obsession in a way that's not compelling in the slightest and really kind of worrying in a perverse sort of way. But look, I can already hear some people saying, no, it's a commentary on girls who get stuck in these situations and don't take agency in how they handle themselves. Or, this is very relatable to us. Yeah, you know what? I don't buy that. Sure, the indie pop element and somewhat detached delivery might raise the question whether or not they're approaching these elements ironically, but considering the constant use of the first person pronoun and the general lack of additional detail and a commentary in the lyrics means there's no other good reason to justify our deeper meaning in these lyrics other than weak excuses to justify shallow lyrics. And as for relatability, I don't know. I can buy that some people will consider some of these lyrics relatable, but the question should be whether or not they should be relatable, because they reflect insecurities that in their particular the form of delivery that I'm not sure is all that attractive or particularly nice to see. I get the feeling that these girls are trying to come across as being above some of these insecurities when the lyrics really betray them in this regard. So yeah, Days Are Gone by HAIM is good, I guess. I'm not going to try to deny that the eclectic range of sounds that HAIM brings together, it's interesting, and it's very, very catchy, I'll give them that. I can see that with the right marketing push or the right Glee cover, this band will get some serious airplay. But at the same time, the lyrical content is pretty much a wash, and it really paints HAIM, in comparison with acts like Savages and Churches, as having little to say outside of self-obsessed, quasi-romantic whinging. And look, I don't have a high tolerance for that. I feel like I'm being very, very generous here, and I will acknowledge the general catchiness and the strength of the instrumentation, and my fondness for new folk vocals. Well, it knocks it up to a 7 out of 10. But man, it barely scrapes that rating, all things considered. If you don't care about lyrics, or if you're interested in music that's very much a jumbled fusion of multiple influences and lyrics that are too underweight to balance against that, or if you can feel that you can really relate to these lyrics that feel about insecurity and having a lack of agency in relationships and not really getting out of that modus, I guess I could recommend HAIM's Days Are Gone. But really, it did very, very little for me. It happens. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate all my subscribers and all you guys sticking by me. If you'd like to like and subscribe additionally, I would be more than grateful for that. If there's anything I may be able to do to improve my presentation or any other albums that you'd like me to look at, I'd be more than happy to take a listen. Until then, see you next time.